Following is a repeat show that was previously broadcast on Unity FM.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Parenting Hour. You're tuned into Unity FM 93.5 here in the heart of Birmingham. A little bit wet today, and we'll discover all about why it's so wet in a few minutes with our guest speaker, inshallah. But I hope, inshallah, you're all keeping well and that you're all looking forward to another exciting show, inshallah, live in the studio. My name is Kathleen Roche-Nagi, and this is Parenting Hour for the next hour, inshallah. If you'd like to ring in, we're on 0121 772 8892. We really would like you to get involved in this evening's chat. I always feel it's much better when we have calls in and it's much more interactive, and I know my guest with me is very used to sitting at my side of the studio behind these buttons here and interviewing people, so it's nice to have you at the other side. So Assalamu alaikum, Sid, welcome to my show, Parenting Hour.
Wa alaikum salam. It's an honour to be on your show because I know you've been doing this for a long time and you've got some amazing shows that you're always running, so it's great to be. It's actually quite nice to be on the other end. I feel like I don't have anything to do here now because I've got nothing to be moving around. I know.
You can come over here if you like and do both, indeed. But we'll only have the button. A lot of the buttons are only when callers come in. So callers, we are waiting for your calls. We have 2 lines here open. Please call in. This is your opportunity to talk to Sid, because when she does her own shows, she's very, very busy with callers and not always able to talk about herself. It's talking about the topic and the guest, etc. But this evening we want to concentrate on you a little bit and what you're doing and why you're doing these shows, and probably maybe some tips for parents coming up to the holidays, because holiday time is long, it's hard. Parents think, what am I going to do with them? But there's lots they can do, lots of projects, lots of things.
Yeah, there's loads that parents can be doing with their kids. And it should be a time where you're excited to be spending time with your kids, that they're off school and they're not going to be tired when they're at home, and you've got that time to be spending as a family. So we'll give lots of tips later on the show.
Brilliant, wonderful. I did say I'd come back and talk about the rain, because it's raining, as they say, cats and dogs out there at the moment.
It's really bad today.
Really bad, really, really heavy. Yeah. And a few days ago, we had this ice rain they were talking about that was going to be like black ice that was coming. So,
did I miss that?
Did you? Maybe you
did. It actually rain ice?
It did. It rained a few days ago, mainly up north. I think we missed it in Birmingham, but it was raining. They were saying, they were given a forecast that to be careful because it was going to land like ice, and it was going to be like black ice.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and
so not hail, but actually ice.
Yes, and you could see it on drops of trees of icicles.
Oh wow!
Of rainwater.
I think we did miss that in Birmingham. Yeah. We didn't have any of that in Birmingham, did we?
No, we didn't. No.
I'm glad we missed it though.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of ice.
Alhamdulillah.
This time last year it was pretty bad, because I remember not being able to go anywhere for a week because everything was iced up. I don't know whether you remember.
That's right, I remember.
But in November last year it was really bad, so we don't have it as bad at the moment. It might be coming up in a couple of weeks' time, but they are saying we are going to get ice and snow soon.
Right.
So yeah, the weather's really unpredictable in the UK at the moment.
And why are we getting all this rain all of a sudden, and why does it and fall in ice sometimes and in nice fine rain other times, and then wet rain like today and other times?
It depends on the weather. So I think we've spoken about the water cycle on my show at some point, or if we haven't, we'll just do a quick review. So we do have a lot of rain in the summer as well, and that's more to do with humidity. When the air's really warm, the water gets evaporated into the air. So things like lakes and ponds. So if you're close to a lake and pond, you will get all of that evaporated up, and then it forms clouds, and then when that condenses, it will start to rain. So it's that never-ending cycle. Now, when it's cold like this, it could come down as ice or snow, depending on the temperature that we have up in the clouds. But I don't actually know why we have heavy rain like we've had today, and why in some cases we have that and other cases we don't. But I'm assuming because we're an island, and UK is an island, that we get a lot of water being carried from the oceans, and it's been pushed onto mainland. So even though we're quite central, we still seem to get quite a bit of rain. But then I guess we have a lot of canals in Birmingham as well. So there's lots of different ways that the water can form in the air, and so I think it's a combination of all of those factors together.
And there's lovely duas to do in the rain, so we shouldn't actually be worried or not liking the rain, because there's bounties there as well. We need rain for the growth of the crops and everything else to continue like that. So there's positives in the weather. It's not all negatives. Yeah, alhamdulillah. I can see you're passionate about it, even when you're talking about the rain, how passionate you come across. So can you explain a little bit about your background to listeners? Because I'm sure they're intrigued, like what I am, to find out why
sure.
this young person in front of me, and I would call you a young person.
I think I look younger than I actually am.
Well, you're so passionate about science, which
Thank you.
I love. I love trying to get young people passionate about science like this and understanding science and the miracles out there. Because there's so much in our Islam related to science.
Yeah, and everything's really fascinating. We just don't give enough thought to some of the things that are around us sometimes, I think. So I'm about finding what those things are that we take for granted and actually getting kids to explore and be curious about the world. So going back to my background, so I studied physics and maths at A-level and art and textile. So I was very creative, but I also liked the academic side of stuff. And I went to a grammar school, so I was very lucky to be able to have that kind of support structure, and it was very academic. And then when it came to deciding what to do at uni, I wasn't quite sure. And because I loved the creativity, I loved photography, I loved doing art, I loved my textiles projects, but then I equally loved the maths and the physics, because it got you to think, and that logical nature to it I found really fascinating. And then it came down to, if I did art at uni, would I have the ability to continue with the maths and physics? And the answer was probably not. But if I did physics and maths at uni, I could probably continue with the art and the photography in my spare time. So I decided to do, this is going to sound really scary now, a master's in theoretical physics and applied maths.
Wow.
So I did a 4-year course. I wasn't even sure whether I'd last the first year, but I loved it, and I ended up doing it for 4 years. And then when I graduated from that, I took a gap year. I set up my business, which I'm still working on at the moment. And then after that first year, I got headhunted for a teaching post. I didn't have any teaching qualifications at that point. And part of what I do in my business is also teaching. So I thought, okay, let's give this a shot. And it was A-level teaching in a private college. So I did that for a few years, loved it so much. Then I decided to do my teacher training. I did that. I worked in a grammar school, I worked in state, I worked in independent, so I've kind of seen it all. And I taught physics and maths up to A-level when I was teaching, and then I realised also, because I was doing the business on the side, and I was ready to let go of that if the teaching post provided all the enjoyment and all the kind of excitement that I wanted in a career. And unfortunately, I wasn't finding that. I was finding there was a lot of admin. I was finding there were a lot of kids whose names I couldn't remember because I'd only see them once a week. I at some points I was teaching 300 kids a week, 150 in one day, and you just don't have the capacity to be able to get to know the kids at all. You don't know who they are. You're having to write reports, and you feel guilty that you don't know who they are. And that's what teaching is. It's become so kind of, it's like an industrial machine, and you're chugging out lessons, and I remember being told by my head of department that if the kids were having fun, that I'm not doing my job properly. And it was a very old-fashioned way of teaching that he wanted me to teach, and I realised this isn't what I want to do. That wasn't me. I wanted the kids to love learning and to remember the sessions, and I wanted the ability to be able to express myself and to not be so rigid to follow the curriculum. And it was all about targets and being target-driven. Kids were given labels of they predicted a C, they predicted a B, and they weren't pushed anymore. So there was lots of issues that I faced while I was teaching, which I felt didn't fit in with my values and the way that I wanted to get kids enjoying learning. So I decided to take a plunge and leave and work on the business full time. So that kind of gives you a summary of how I got to where I am today.
Wow. Well done. Well, that's a journey already in your young life.
And I learned loads along the way, and I think I wouldn't change the experiences that I've had, because all of that has made me who I am today, and all the teaching experience. I loved that I had the experience to do that, because I wouldn't have that insight if I hadn't.
And Allah puts opportunities in front of you and different things. And I'm sure our listeners will be used to this also, that sometimes we think we're going one way and Allah will open another path for us. Or sometimes, like you had both the creative and the science background. And I remember actually when you were saying that, I was thinking about myself, where I loved the creative background as well. And my older sister was actually an art teacher. And I did better than her in my leaving cert and loved that. But I also loved the medicine, the biology and the science, and wanted to do nursing. And that side got me into nursing. I went and did nursing, alhamdulillah. But then later, when there was a recession in Ireland and we had no jobs there was opportunities that came up for going abroad, and Egypt was one of them. And it was because of the art bit that brought me out there, because I wanted to see the Valley of the Kings and the Queens and all the art that I had learned that attracted me to that. So we don't know what way Allah has our paths arranged for us to bring us to where we are today.
So I have a lot of mentors which will say, so what's your plan for the next 5 years? And I'll be like, I'll see what the opportunities come, and I'll see, because I'm the type of person that will say yes to most opportunities, because I want to see where they lead. And it's amazing what kind of comes out of a conversation that you wouldn't think would lead anywhere, and doors open. And if you're willing to give things a shot, then it's exciting where the path's going to lead. So I'm pretty open to seeing where the world takes me. And I say world, I've only just got a passport, so we'll see, inshallah.
Only just got it, mashallah.
Yeah, last month.
Have you travelled anywhere outside UK then? No, not yet. Okay, mashallah.
Islands on the list.
Oh, good. Well, you've probably been there with your science mind on, because I know you're up and down to planets and you're doing lots about
it. Feels like for a long time it felt like everything was in Birmingham, because I got everything I needed from the research I was doing and looking at different topics, and that kept me going for so long. But now I am curious about the world. I do want to travel, so we'll see where it goes, inshallah.
Great. How could you get this message across to young people about science and the love of science? I mean, you've been on this journey and you can see your passion has come out. How can we, or parents listening into this, they might be driving home today thinking, no, the holiday's in front and things like that, and maybe I have a couple of days over Christmas, I could actually do something in that time, or even longer. How can you initiate that love of science, the love of experiments, the love of knowing knowledge that is not hard to do? I mean, you took something out of your bag before the show started, and that was lovely. I mean, we can explain about that, and it was intriguing, and it engages children and young people. How can we do that better?
I think it's just about asking questions. We live in a society where, as adults, we're kind of told not to ask too many questions. We're afraid to ask questions. We're embarrassed to ask questions. We're embarrassed to admit we don't know. And I think that's where we're failing as a society. We're kind of expected not to ask, and we're expected to just, adults kind of know everything, right? And kids are made to believe that adults know everything. And I think the first thing is accepting that we don't know everything, and to ask those questions that we've forgotten to ask. As kids, we were quite open to ask those questions, but as we go through the education system, it really does kill our creativity. And I did a speech in town about this in front of a large audience of 100, and we talked about the journey of creativity, and how as a 5-year-old you're so intrigued about the world. You want to ask about what's out there, and how far the stars are, what does space smell like, and all of these big questions. And then as you go through the education system, it becomes less about the learning and more about competing with the rest of your peers, getting those top marks, getting that A, getting that grade at GCSE. It becomes less about the actual learning, more about passing that test. And I think as you go through the education system, it's more and more and more about the testing. So by the time you get to A-level and university, it's killed your creativity, it's killed your passion for learning. And when I finished uni, I realised how little I actually knew. When I went into teaching, I realised how little I actually knew. I'd gone through this education system for the whole period of my life, and when And suddenly when I came to planning lessons, I was like, I actually don't understand this concept. I just knew the answers to pass the test. I didn't actually understand the concept. And I had to relearn a lot of things. And it made me realise that even though I've got a degree in physics, I don't actually understand what I learned. And most of what I learned I'd forgotten really quickly because it was just for the test. So I do feel like I wasted a lot of my education because the focus was on the testing. I did well. I got brilliant grades, but has that done me any favours? And that's the one thing that I want to make sure that the next generation don't lose out on, because the learning, it's amazing. When you learn something and you fully understand it, it opens your eyes to other things as well. So for parents, it's about not being afraid to ask questions, even if you don't know the answer. Like when we were doing the periodic table workshop last term, I turned to one of my staff and I said, what elements is wood made out of? Because I'd never thought of it before, because wood isn't an element. So I was like, what's that made up of? Because we have so much wood around us, like the trees and tables and everything that we kind of see. A lot of items are made out of wood. What element is in that? Like, what elements are in there? And we sat down and we did some research, and I was just fascinating. I was like, okay, we have to implement this in the session now. And just things like that. There's little questions like that can lead into a whole topic. And then when you do some more research, you'll lead into a different question. And it's never ending. And if you can spark that in your child, you're going to create something in their mind which is going to be just amazing, because they won't be able to. You won't be able to control it, because they'll keep asking questions, and their learning will increase, and their love for learning will increase. And it's getting that initial spark. And the kids that have been with us for a few years now, they just blow my mind away with the type of questions that they ask. And it's like, how did you even come up with that? And then the solutions that they come up with and their reasoning behind it. I can't ever imagine my imagination being that amazing. And it's just kind of giving them that ability and that safety net to be able to express themselves, and then harnessing that and building a structure around them where they feel safe to kind of explore and not be afraid to ask questions. Because that's the one thing I learned at teaching, especially sixth formers. Kids were very shy in admitting that they didn't know. They would rather knowingly give me an answer and say it's right, knowing that it's wrong, and kind of be so convinced that it's right that it would make I would doubt myself. I'd be like, hang on, let me just double check. They did not like to admit that they were wrong.
Oh, so is that, I wonder, a generational change there, that they're trying to, are they trying to please?
I think so. Yeah. I do think, and it's also we do a lot of work with mindset as well with parents and kids, and schools, even though they have a whole agenda around growth mindset and training teachers and kids into that, the whole structure, the whole system, the way it's set up, it's a very fixed mindset mentality where it's about the grades, it's about the end result, it's not about the journey. So growth mindset is more about knowing that if you're finding something challenging, it's when you're actually growing. And to not say no to a challenge, because that's where the real learning happens. And most kids think if they get stuck, that means they're not intelligent. So if they've been told, you're very smart, you're very bright at maths, and then they come across a question and they're struggling with it, they don't want to admit that they can't do it, because then that will make their teacher say, you're not as smart as I thought you were. So it's just those simple words that you can use at home as well. So not actually encouraging, not praising intelligence, but praising effort. So the effort that someone puts into a question, or even the effort that they put into finding the answer to a question that they've come up with. If you praise that, a child will always then feel safe to explore and fail, because failure is part of learning. If you're always getting it right, you're not actually learning anything new.
Yeah, that is so true, and we do a lot of that in our parenting courses about getting parents to understand the good things that children are doing and the different types of ways they can praise children, as you're saying, and pick up and to build their character. Yes, very, very important there, because they are doing so many kind things, as well as maybe educational things, but things that looking after each other or sharing or playing together. They're doing so much of that parents often overlook. And again, this is helping building character of the child. So the praise there is really important.
Yeah, and they overlook that, and then they'll focus on the negatives.
Yes, they do.
And it's fine to actually pick out the negatives, but you also have to equally kind of praise a child when they're doing something right. And we often, like you said, we overlook that. It's so easy to do.
So easy to do. So it's getting that praise, that effort in there, and making it a little bit exciting for them. So sometimes I find too that parents, when they're introducing a topic or something, and they may have the best effort or will in the world to do something over holidays, but they themselves, either they're tired or they're not excited by it, and we have to do this, and it's kind of looking really sad, and they're like ticking the box, I just, because when your dad comes home, I'll say we did this, or just in themselves thinking we've done this, rather than having that excitement and enthusiasm there.
You need that, yeah. I think you can't teach something that you're not excited about yourself. And that's one of the things that is really hard to, because I've got staff, and it's really hard to teach that. Like, you have to find staff that are equally excited about the things that I get excited about, otherwise it doesn't work. And that's something that you can't actually you can't teach that. You need to have a passion in what you're doing, otherwise there's no point of doing it. So I think if as a parent you're looking for topics that will excite your child, find something that will excite you first, because if you're excited, your kid's going to get excited naturally. And it could be anything. We've done things like we'll talk about poo, we've talked about planets, we do periodic table, like anything. You can pick anything. You can pick like a little bit of grass and say, right, we're going to learn about grass today. Let's see how exciting grass is. And like I read somewhere that when you're cutting grass, the grass smell that you get.
Yes, I love it.
Apparently, that's the plant's way of saying I'm in danger. Really? So it's alerting other grass in the area that they're being damaged.
Oh dear.
I guess that's one way of interpreting it.
You just ruined my nice smell now. Because I love the smell of freshly cut grass.
But it's interesting. Like that in itself can like start up an entire conversation. You can give characters to a grass. You can create a storyline. You could go crazy with that. And you could... be amazing what you could do with just talking about grass.
Imagine. So that could be the whole topic, listeners, over your Christmas holidays. There's a subject, grass. We probably have rain. We probably have a bit of grass outside in the garden, a small patch, or rain, or even we could get a pot and plant some grass seeds in it. To looking at grass and what do we need to do to grow it. I used to grow pea seeds with my children a lot when they were very young, and I loved to teach them these things as well as other things when they were very, very young. And indeed, were only maybe 3 and 4, and still it's a really lovely and interactive thing to do, an experiment to do. So trying to get enthusiasts about that. We're going into a commercial break. We're counting down on the last few seconds. So listeners, if you're tuned in and you haven't managed to phone us, which you haven't, we haven't had any calls, do so after the break on 0121 772 8892 and tune into our program here with Sid talking about science. And what
حن قلبي للمدينة لرسول الله فاقتفى القلب حنينا طالبا لقياه يا طيبة الأنوار لي شوق تبعت هداه يا طيبة الأنوار لي شوق تبعت هداه شوق تبعت هداه ارتقينا للمعالي والخطى ازدادت حنينا إذ تراءت كالخيال روضة الهادي نبينا التقينا للمعالي والخطى ازدادت حنينا إذ تراءت كالخيال روضة الهادي نبينا إننا يا رب جئنا بقلوب مستكينة نهجنا النبراس يهدي دربنا نحو المدينة مدينة مدينة قلبي للمدينة لرسول الله فاقتفى القلب حنينا طالبا لقياه يا طيبة الأنوار لي شوق تبعت هداه يا طيبة الأنوار لي شوق تبعت هداه شوق تبعت هداه يا رسولا.
Following is a repeat show that was previously broadcast on Unity FM.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Parenting Hour. You're tuned in to Unity FM 93.5 here in Birmingham, and also welcome back to our Luton listeners who are tuned in on 105.1. I'm sorry I didn't mention you earlier on. We should not forget our lovely Luton listeners down there who always tune in every week to us. We're here on Parenting Hour talking about issues that affect parents and how to inspire parents in getting more involved in science projects and doing things over the holidays. So before the break, we were talking about grass and rain, and we have Sid in the studio, who you all know her voice because she has her own radio shows, and she's been inspiring me a lot about science over the last half an hour, mashallah. We have a caller on line 2 which we're going to go to, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And who is speaking?
Saif Ahmed.
Saif. Assalamu alaikum, Saif. How old are you?
I'm 10.
10. And have you got a question or a comment that you'd like to take part in today's show?
Well, I'd like to talk about science with Sid.
Go on then.
Well, it's really fun doing learning science.
Do you come to one of my courses?
Sorry?
Do you come to one of my courses?
Yeah.
Ah, you're the Adaifa from the course on Saturdays. Okay, I thought I recognised you. So what have you been learning then?
Well, I learned that...
Have you forgotten?
Yeah, I have.
What's the topic been on for the last 6 weeks?
It's been about space, and we've been making space boxes.
Yeah, so do you remember the very first week we looked at the Big Bang Theory? Do you remember that?
No, I wasn't here on the first.
Oh, were you not? What was the second one? The second one was space travel.
Yeah, we were painting the first bit of our boxes.
Yeah, so what did we learn about space travel though? What about the food and the water and the toilets?
That
Go on.
is very expensive.
Yeah, do you know how much?
No.
Do you want to have a guess?
I wouldn't be able to guess.
$15 million.
Oh, you're close. It was $19 million, so it's close to about £18 million, I would say, roughly. But it's a lot of money to get like a suction toilet. So the astronauts need to go on toilet training on Earth first. And that toilet on Earth has got a camera to make sure that they're putting their bum on the right place.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's not as glamorous as we think, right?
No, it isn't.
Have you enjoyed the course then?
Yeah.
Brilliant. And have you taken your box home?
Yeah.
Excellent. You're going to have to send me some photos because I missed the last session, didn't I?
Yeah, you went out early.
Yeah, I had to do a session in another venue that day.
What's the best thing, Safe, about coming on the course and learning about science?
Come on, there's got to be something.
When we were doing the activities itself.
You love the activities, the hands-on activities?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Is it that's exciting at school?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Do you enjoy science at school then?
Not always.
But now what you can do is you know how to make it exciting. So you could take projects in and show the teacher what you've been doing and give ideas. And you can encourage others to ask questions. And you can make it exciting. It's just about asking the right questions, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Do you think you'd like to do something in science in the future, Safe?
Probably.
So has inshallah, it's a lovely career. There's always things to learn. What a lovely, rewarding career, subhanallah, because there's lots of things being written in the Quran that still science hasn't caught up with quite. And subhanallah, it would be lovely if you were able to go into that and find something new.
Sorry?
Wouldn't it be nice if you went into that field and found something new? You could maybe have a planet called after you or a gene called after you. Would that be good?
Yeah.
Yeah, mashallah. Have you got a question for Sid now that you're on?
What's the next course?
The next course in January is about muscles and joints. So we'll be learning about our muscles and the different types of joints, because it's something that we don't often think about, but the joints in our bodies, they're not all the same. So your wrist bone, for example, is not going to be the same joint as your elbow. And we're going to be learning about the different joints and then how can we make our muscles nice and healthy so we make sure our body's working properly. So that's what we're going to be learning about in January.
Are you excited that you're going to be learning about these things?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's really good because we need our muscles and our joints for so much, even to eat. We don't realise how much we need just taking that spoon or fork and taking it to our mouth.
And your tongue is actually quite a strong muscle in itself, and we don't realise how big it is. It goes all the way down to our throat. So I was doing a first aid course last week, and they were saying how long it actually is, and I didn't really realise that before.
It is. It's quite very long indeed. Yes, and then it's got.
I did first aid and stuff.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow, that's brilliant. I've only just done it for the first time a couple of years ago, but that's brilliant that you've got that at such a young age as well. At least I'll feel safe around him.
You will indeed.
He'll know how to deal with a dilemma.
Have you got anything planned for the holidays, Safe? Any experiments lined up?
No.
Or maybe if you continue tuning into us for the rest of the show, you may get some tips now of what to do over the holidays. Would Mum or Dad be able to help you in doing something, or brothers or sisters? Yeah? Very good. So I'm sure a lot of your experiments are not costing a lot to this.
You can do a lot of stuff using household items, and it doesn't even have to be about experiments. Science is about curiosity, and I did theoretical physics at uni, so I did no experiment work, and that's still science. So you can do science without actually doing experiments, and you can still make it fun and enjoyable. So it doesn't even have to be experiment based. Like space, for example, we can't really do experiments with space, but you can still make it interactive. It'd be amazing if we could do experiments, right? If we could actually take a spacecraft out into space and collect data. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I really want to be an astronaut, inshallah.
Oh, that's good. That's great to aim for that as well. Have you been listening into my radio show the last few weeks? Because we've had some amazing space-related people in that were talking about their research.
I haven't. My mum and dad have, but I listened to one of, I don't know what you call it, I'm just going to say episode, when you were talking about the planets have names about the days of the week.
Oh, yeah. So I think they do repeat it on a Saturday as well, so maybe you can tune in then.
Thank you, Sid. The course is so good.
Oh, bless you.
Wow. That's a lovely, lovely comment about
Bless
your
you.
course. So other listeners, if you're tuned in, maybe you should contact Sid also and find out what does she do. Really very nice.
It's your first course, isn't it, Saif?
Yeah.
You've never come before, so so that's nice to know, to have some feedback from someone who's just done their first course as well. Thank you for that.
I have this belly building toy. It also teaches us about muscles and joints as well.
Oh, you could bring that in then, and you could show us that as a demo if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. We do encourage the kids to bring stuff in if they've got anything useful to show us, so that'd be really good.
My mum wants to talk to you.
Okay. Hello, Mum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullah.
How are you, sisters?
Alhamdulillah, we're good. We're having a lovely evening here talking about science, and it's been lovely talking to Saif about his experiences of attending the.
It was a bit
classes.
nervous on the radio, but I just wanted to say, I mean, how we got into it is just by myself and my husband listening to Sid on the radio. So it just reignited our passion for science as well, what we used to learn at school. And that's why we put her on, because Sid, mashallah, you're doing really well
Thank
with
you.
the children. You make the lessons so exciting. And I just wish that when I was doing science, I wish there was somebody like you around then to inspire me at
bless
that
you.
time.
We came across you randomly, right? It wasn't even... I met her in a random place, and she recognised my voice.
And just the night before, my husband and I was having a conversation that he was telling me, we need to contact Sid and we need to see what she does, what she's really about. So, alhamdulillah, Allah makes ways. So that's how we got to know each other.
Mashallah, mashallah. And have you got something nice lined up for over the holidays to do with Saif?
Inshallah, holidays is all about spending family time together. But like you said, he's got that Billy Boy which came on a weekly part bit where you get muscles and then you get a joint and you get like framework of a skeleton and you have to build it up. So I think we're going to get that out and have a look and prep and revise and see what you can remember ready for January, inshallah.
I think another good way of spending time with family is to have a game. Like board games, we underrate them so much. And what I realised when I started working in a school which was outside of Birmingham, what was really nice was when the staff got together for a social, they would take board games with them. And it's not something that we do, I think, within the Asian community very much. But like the white community, it's a common thing that they do all the time. And it was so nice that they would sit around and we'd have a meal and then we'd play a board game. And it really got me into board games. And there were some really good educational ones out there, and you can get really nice science ones as well.
I did listen to one of your shows when you were talking about I think it was accentuate or something.
Yeah, he had like a periodic table one.
Yes, that's the one. I wanted to get that one.
Yeah, so we've got that. We haven't yet played it, so we've got a staff meeting coming up this week, and that's on the agenda to have a play with that.
Play a game.
Yeah, it's work. So I think, board games are brilliant. There's some really good ones. We didn't have that choice when we were younger, but there's so much choice now. So if you're deciding what to do as a family, it can be really expensive if you're going out all the time. Have a board game. It'll keep you entertained for hours, and it'll keep the kids away from screen time as well. It's a really nice family.
And you'll have lots of fun and laughter together, which you're going to remember rather than watching something on TV that you'll all forget.
Because I think a lot.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you indeed. Thank you for calling in, listener. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Have a good holiday, inshallah. Oh, mashallah, that was really nice talking to somebody that's been on your course and things like that. So can you tell us a little bit more, because time is running on us, about...
It's gone really quick.
Yeah, it's gone really quick. What is it that you're doing, and what can be done over the holidays or after the holidays? I think a few things planned. Yeah,
so we finished our courses on Saturday. That was like us done for the whole year now.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of admin to do over the next few weeks. But
your year is finished?
Sorry?
So you go to your year is not like the academic year, so your year is...
Yeah, our year's finished.
Okay.
I meant like 2018. All our courses for 2018 are finished.
Okay. Yeah.
So our next courses now are starting in the week beginning of the 7th of January. And we have a 6-week course. The science courses have always been a big hit with families, so that's going to continue. We're going to offer a 6-week science course, and like I mentioned to Saif, it's going to be on muscles and joints. And then we're offering a new course in January as an add-on to the science one, and that's going to be called the Young Millionaires Hub. And this is about getting that science knowledge where they're learning it and then being able to apply it to a real life context. So Young Millionaires Hub is about giving kids the skills that they need to apply the knowledge to a real life context. And in this case, we're going to be working in collaboration with the restaurant. The kids will learn how the restaurant functions, how they market, how their finances work. They'll work closely with the chef to design a meal and a smoothie drink as well. That's good for their muscles and joints. And then we're going to have a final event where that meal that the kids have designed is going to be cooked by the chef and served to the family and the kids that are attending. And then we've got another course that's been very popular. We've been in the news recently. On the news, a journalist wrote an article on this, the Little Speakers Club that we've been running. So that's about giving kids public speaking and confidence skills to be able to share their knowledge and share what their passion is with the rest of the world. It's something that I feel really strongly about, because growing up, I was very shy. I was a kid that never put their hand up. I was the one that wouldn't walk into a room that was filled with people because I felt awkward walking in. So it's about giving kids the confidence, so when they go into the world of work or even at school, that they feel comfortable in what they have to say and they're happy to share that with the rest of the world. So in our January course, the kids are going to learn how to pitch their meal to a panel of judges. It's going to be a Dragon's Den style pitch, and I've already got the confirmed panel of judges, and I'm really excited because we've got a journalist, we've got the owner of the restaurant, we're going to have a CEO of a huge company, we're also going to have a manager from a bank. So they're going to be exposed to real people, real entrepreneurs, real business people, and they're going to be pitch. They're going to pitch and they're going to be judged. So it's going to be really exciting.
Their own meal. And so what age children are we talking about here?
From 5 all the way up to 15.
Wow. So
yeah,
5-year-olds going to pitch?
Yeah. We had 5-year-olds talk about politics to an audience of 100 people. And they did amazing. They picked the topic that they wanted to speak about. We helped mould that into a political speech. And they formed 2 political parties. We went canvassing in the local community. They even managed to get sponsorship because their speeches were so great that when they went canvassing, some businesses said that we'd sponsor them. So we got banners printed, we got badges done. It was a really nice event, and that's what was picked up by a local newspaper. So we've got a journalist for our next course, but we've also got the event coming up in January where our current course kids are going to get their certificates. So after every 6 weeks we do an event to celebrate the end of the course. All the families get together, we have food, we have interesting speakers to come in and talk. So our January event is still on Space because it's marking the end of these 6 weeks, and the lady that's coming in to talk to us is a researcher in planetary science, and she's coming all the way from London. She's been working in California, so she was on my show a few weeks ago. So she'll be working in California. She's coming back to the UK, going to be based in London, but she's travelling up just to be there at the event. And she'll see the theatre show that the kids will be doing for their little speakers this time round. So there's so much. I probably confused everyone with everything I've said.
And how do people find out about this? Is there a website they can go to look at it more in their own time? Maybe because maybe now they're driving and not able to look at.
I think the easiest way to find out stuff is just to search Science with Sid. Sid is SYD. That's the easiest one to give you over the radio, because I think my other website is difficult to spell out. So Science with Sid, SYD. If you find me on Facebook, you can message me, or you'll probably find a link which links back to one of my business pages. Or you can always call in and leave your details with the station, because they've always pass on people's details to me if people want that. If they want to reach out to me. So that's an alternative that they can do.
Right, because some people might want to just look at this, and it is like 6-week blocks of programs, and of course there's a charge for this.
There is a charge, and the charge varies depending on what you're signing up to, and we've got payment plans as well for our January courses. So if it's difficult to pay all in one lump sum, there's options. In the past, we've just done like a sign up where you just book and pay. What we're doing now is we're doing an application process. So we want people on our courses which share our vision, our education philosophy, and we want smaller groups, because we had really big groups for our previous course. So we're doing an application process because there's so many parents that want their kids to come, but we want it to be a good match for you guys as well as for us as well, because I think once we've got the support of the parents, the kids really take something valuable, because the parents are supporting them at home, they share the same vision, we're supporting them in the sessions, and then you're really set up to kind of take the most value from the sessions as well, I think.
And how do you come up with the topics, the 6-week topics that you have? Who inspires you to think about these things?
Well, we come up with topics because we come up with random topics, things that we find, and we pick topics we don't necessarily find inspiring to start off with. It's only when we start doing the research that we kind of go, wow, there's so much in there. Because space is a topic we've done last year, but we made an effort to not repeat any of those areas that we covered last year, and we thought it was going to be difficult to start off with, but once we went into it, there was so much more. And I remember picking one topic about a couple of months ago. We did blood, and I thought, what could we do for an entire month on blood? Well, once we started doing the research, there was so much we could do. So we've kind of outlined topics for the entire year. 2019's already outlined, and then once we start doing the research is when we start bringing the topic alive. But we don't go out picking inspiring topics. We just pick a theme and see where it takes us. How can we make that theme fun for the kids?
And how do you manage to have a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old in the same group learning about that topic? How do you get that across and make sure that both of them are inspired and both learning at their own levels?
So what we used to do, we used to have separate age ability groups. So we did that for a long time, and what we realised was that they were missing out in mixed learning, because when a child of a different age supports a younger child, that's when the real learning happens. If they can replicate what they've learnt and be able to teach it to a younger child, that's where the real learning is happening as well. So what we've done with our space course, we have multiple teachers present. So then the age groups get split up. But we do the introduction together. So we introduce the topic together, we do the demos together as a whole group, because we were repeating it across the age groups, and that's exactly the same. So the topic's the same, but when we do the activities, they'll be differentiated, and we'll have a teacher working with the different age groups, and then we'll come back together again, and then the older kids will explain what they've learnt to the younger kids, and vice versa. The younger kids will explain to the older what they did on their activity, and the discussions are amazing. So what we've realised is we're actually replicating aspects of Montessori teaching, we're replicating aspects of the Finnish teaching model without realising it. But over the years I've realised this actually really works well. So they do get stuff differentiated to their age, but they're also getting the dynamic group learning experience of a mixed age ability group as well.
Oh, it's wonderful. It sounds so lovely. And you think what you can do with it. You could have a whole play around blood. You could have the red blood cells and the white blood cells and the platelets, and somebody coming in with some infection or something, and what happens there.
But that's a really good idea. I didn't think about it as a theatre form. We did comic strips where they had like the bacteria or viruses as like the bad guys, and they wrote like I think they the white blood cells were like the police officers, and so they came up with comic strip interpretations of that. And then the older kids actually, we did the fingerprint. I can't remember what it's called now, where they grew their the bacteria on their fingertips.
Okay, yes. In the Petri dish.
Yeah, in the Petri dish. And it was interesting to see, because we did have. It wasn't the kids. We did a fingerprint of one of the adults that worked in the venue, not our staff. It was just an adult that worked in the venue, and we had some red stuff growing from his fingertip, which means he did not wash his hands when he'd been to the toilet.
So did you have an incubator to be able to grow that then?
No, we just kept it in a warm place, so it grew.
Wow!
Because we have a week's gap between sessions, so within the week it grown, but we had to make sure we got rid of that properly to avoid anything spreading. But it was fascinating. The kids loved that.
SubhanAllah, and it actually reminds us, so much of this just reminds us of our faith and our creation, and how magnificent Allah is, that we are created like this, and how amazing it is. You know, when we think of it, all of these. Or every single thing is a miracle, really, if we break it down and see all these molecules. If you just look at blood or look at something like grass or rain or whatever it is.
Whichever direction you go, like you could go microscopic level, or you could go to like the universe level. There's so much symmetry across, and it's just so fascinating. Or even just like on a normal level, just looking at the sky and the scenery and stuff, it's just amazing. So there's just so much. There's so much.
So much to do, so much to learn indeed. And going back to the rain again, I remember hearing a talk from Professor Najjar one time, who is a scientist and links a lot to Islam, and he said that the same rainfall falls every year on Earth, but in different areas.
Oh, wow.
Differently. So, yeah, and talking about the sea and the land and the ratios. I mean, there's so much there that is related to Islam and what's mentioned already to Islam. So having those links to appreciate our faith in a way, not that we need to appreciate, but I think young children sometimes forget about that, and you know that everything is in our faith. So
and just the mathematical beauty of that, that the same there's the same amount of rainfall every year. Like it's just amazing.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. We're in the last few seconds again. The time goes by
so
here quickly. So people can ring you here in the studio if they want to book onto some of your courses.
They can leave details behind in the studio, and the studio people always message them on to me. So there have been parents that have done that in the past.
Brilliant, lovely indeed.
Or Science with Sid is SYD.
And what day is that on if they want to tune in?
Thursdays between 3 and 5 p.m. on
Brilliant.
Unity FM.
On Unity FM 93.5. Well, it was lovely having you, Sid. I feel inspired, and I hope you'll be able to continue this, inshallah. May Allah reward you for this unique way of getting young people involved in science and enthused in science, inshallah. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Do have a good week. Enjoy your holidays, and we'll be back live after the Christmas break, but we've got some good...